guys, welcome to the pod.
The Pea Pod. I'm Peas.
And I'm Ladle.
And we have a full ladle of peas for you.
So let's get to it.
Music that I want to write for that using the borrowed chords that we learned about.
Ah.
I have a whole thing that I thought about. This like a rock guitar intro. That's kind of like, it's just going to start in a snare and it's going to go and then go. It's not going to be like hard rock, but it's going to be awesome. I think I want Sion to help me with it a little bit.
Okay.
And you, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the Pea Pod, everybody. Sorry we weren't there last week. I didn't say anything about it.
I was ill.
But
it was my fault.
Little Miss Ladle had a
sickness. Could not walk. So
she had the flu and everything.
It was a bad bout of the flu. It was.
Was.
I left campus. It was rough. I'm still recovering, so if I sound a little hoarse, a little sniffly, that is why. So just have some grace and patience with me.
Put your mask on when you listen to this.
No,
don't do that.
That's triggering for many people.
It is.
You shouldn't have said.
Yeah, no. We're going to lose all 6 of our listeners. Okay, so we are going to be in 1 Kings chapter 19.
19,
today.
Verses 9 through 18, and I will be reading
and
this week.
Ladle will be reading, so you can start whenever you are ready, Miss.
This is the story of Elijah in the cave.
Go ahead.
All right. Read with me. Chapter 19, verse 9. Then he came to a cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And he said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke into pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And the Lord said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when you arrive, you shall not anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu the son of Nimshi you shall anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha the son of Shaphat and
I have no idea. Abel
Mahola.
We didn't practice this part.
You shall
Keep going.
You shall anoint to be the prophet in your place. And the one who escapes from the sword of Hazael shall Jehu put to death. And the one who escapes from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha put to death. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, and the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him."
This is such...
I love the Old Testament.
I love... This is one scene that it invokes so much imagery and emotion for me. It's so epic in my head. It's relatively short, but I told you about that stupid sticker idea, but it's because I hear this and I see this amazing.
It's a really cool sticker
it's
idea.
so cool. Do you want to say what your thoughts and stuff on it first?
I just think it's so interesting that Elijah makes the point where he's like, I am left, and since they're seeking my life, I'm going to stay in his cave. And I don't want to leave. And then God is like, go to the edge of the cave. And Elijah walks to the edge of the cave, and then it's like, tornado, earthquake, fire. And he's like, okay. And he's like, but they're still trying to kill me. And then he goes and he listens to God, and it's really awesome. And he does exactly what he says. And in the following verses is Elisha's part of the story, not to be confused with Elijah. Elijah with a J, Elisha with an SH. So they're different people. But I also love how he makes the distinction. The Lord was not in the earthquake. The Lord was not in the fire. The Lord was not in the wind. Just because it's all these like natural disasters, right? And it's like bad connotations with these things, and destruction, and God's not in it. And I just think that's interesting.
So yes, the way, okay, well, Elijah at this point is, he's been running from Jezebel, who wants to kill him, like he said. That's really all true. Everything he said was true. That
they are trying to kill
killed
him.
Pretty much every Christian, and he's like, I'm the only one left, dude. Like, what am I doing still alive? There's a point in this story where he gets so depressed, he's like, God, just kill me, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, it's like one of the clearest representations of like depression in the Bible is he's like, I am alone, I'm scared, and I'm just kill me. I just don't want to be alive anymore. And God says, you don't even know. He says it in the end of this thing that, yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal. And he says that earlier. I can't remember where it is, but he's like, I've left a remnant, of 7,000 people that have not bowed the knee to Baal. It's not just you, so don't give up on me. But anyway, he's been running from Jezebel.
Yeah.
And he ends up in this cave. And it's just, there's so many, so at the beginning part, right, he says, what are you doing here, Elijah? And that is already kind of a chilling, like, question, because it's like, okay, first of all, God knows what he's doing. He's hiding, but he's asking him the question. It's very much like Jesus asks people the questions all the time, and you're like, you know the answer. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like Jesus will ask people questions that he clearly knows the answer to, and you're like, why are you asking that question? It's because there's a lesson here that he wants him to get by giving him the answer.
Yeah.
So Elijah responds with this like cop-out, basically, of these like a kind of, I don't want to say excuses, but he's like, I've been very jealous for the Lord, and the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant and thrown down your altars and killed all your prophets with the sword, and I'm the only one left, and they're trying to kill me. And so God is like, all right. God does something very much like, at least I feel like this is what I kind of try to do when I'm trying to help somebody through something. I try to like logic my way through it, because I feel like logic is like a sure way to get people to be like, see it slowly. Because when
you know how my brain works, it's very logical.
Right. And so I do that in instances because when you're emotional, when you're afraid, and you're having these moments, I feel like logic, going through it step by step, slowly, seeing the truths is what gets you to where the end is. It's kind of like you're running around in circles and you're trying to find the exit. And if you just slow down and look and walk straight, even though it's dark, the exit's right there. So God does the same thing. He takes him out to the end of the cave and says, go over there, stand on the mount before the Lord, and says, the Lord passed by, right? Now, the way that I interpret this little scene of the earthquake and the fire is these enormous, powerful things that Elijah would see as, oh, look, there's God. But God's not in it, meaning he has the power to make these things happen, and he doesn't even have to be there. He's not the one in the storm and in the earthquake, but he's doing this, right? It's like, it's just this incredible show of power, and it's something that I feel like as a kid when my dad and I would stand on the porch or in the porch and watch a storm roll in or whatever, a lot of people do that, and we always, at some point when we're doing that, we just go, man, the power of God at some point. Like, I remember my dad specifically telling me one time last year there was a tornado in Michigan, and he's standing out on the garage, and he's standing there watching this. It's like just winds and the rain and everything, and everybody's in the basement, and he's just kind of standing there. And eventually, he just is like, "Wow, this is like the power of God." And he wasn't even afraid or anything, which I just think is so cool. But
I feel like that's a very dad thing.
it is a very dad thing.
Like, go stand on the porch during a tornado, like, oh yeah,
yeah, and it's just it's mesmerizing.
Good weather.
Yeah,
My dad does that.
I know. And so then the Lord asks him. Now here's another thing. It says that after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, so it's like these huge storm things are happening. And then in a low whisper, I think of like the phrase, a still small voice.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing here, Elijah? And he asks him the same question. And he's like, look at this power. Now tell me, what are you really doing? And he gives him the same answer.
Yeah.
And God's like, no, you're not getting it, dude. And it says, so he's like, just go home, do what I'm asking you to do, and you're going to be fine. There's going to be 7,000 people that won't bow the knee. And so, in the next verse, in verse 19, it says he departed from there and found Elisha, who is supposed to be his successor, right? Elisha.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just I just think this epic scene of Elijah standing there in fear of the people that are coming after him, and he's hiding.
I mean, Jezebel's terrifying.
Jezebel was horrible. I mean, she was an evil, murderous.
I mean, think of like a supervillain in the movies, and that's like Jezebel, for real. Like, she's one of, like, when I think of like villains in scripture, Jezebel's like near the top of the list.
She's like all the evil mothers after like the good dad has died. I think of there's an adaptation of Snow White where she turns the witch, or the mother turns the husband into a dragon.
Yeah.
And she kind of goes and but that one's called Mirror Mirror, I think. But just all the movies and the stories where the evil mother has like control. This is very much where that comes from.
I thought of like the White Witch from Narnia.
Or exactly the white. Yeah, that's a great comparison. Just murderous, and she was not like. There's a lot of kings and queens and things that were after. They were after people because they had a vendetta against the person, but like Jezebel was like against God. Like she hated these people. Anyway, so this is a very vivid passage for me. I'd love to read it because it's just so powerful, and I really love it.
Mark Job wrote a book on this passage.
I see now that book that they sent us. He sent that to you in
this passage specifically, but is this Elijah?
Unstuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He sent that book.
When you get accepted in a Moody, they send you Mark Job's book Unstuck. And at first I was going to read it, and I was like, oh, whatever, he's the president, cool. And then I did read it, and it was really, really good. And I hadn't heard the story of Elijah, really. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But he talks about like these areas in your life that you feel like you're running away and you're stuck in this cave, and God's saying like Ladle, get out of the cave, dude. And you just sit there and you're like, but there's all these things happening. There's all this horribleness outside, and if I just stay in the cave, I'm protected. There's a roof. There's no wind. There's I'm dry. It's nice. And he's like, no, there's so much more to be lived outside of that cave.
Mm-hmm.
And, then you get to even the edge of the cave, and God does all this, like, just powerful works, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you're in awe. And you're like, okay, I am leaving the cave. Message received, God. And you go, and sometimes you still run back to the cave. And the same thing happens, over and over again. And on Moody's campus, I think that it's easy to stay in the little Moody bubble. And you stay within, like, your, one city block of Moody. And today I was on a campus tour for work, and we were in the Kroll Arch, which is an archway that goes from the plaza out into the city. And I was thinking about it, and I was just thinking about how sometimes Moody can feel like the cave that I hide in, and I don't want to leave it. Because it's comfortable, I know people, there's good things happening, but at the edge of the cave, at the edge of the arch, there's a whole city in front of me. And I just need to walk out and go see it. And I go to things like PCM and see God working in these kids, and I see God working in these incredible ways, and I'm like, wow, being inside the Moody bubble could never give me what I feel when I'm outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And could never fill me the way that ministry does in like an aspect outside of classroom learning and close Christian community. And I mean, it's really scary though. You go out and you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the other part of the tour was we were looking at all of these names next to Torrey Gray Auditorium on the wall of all the missionaries that have gone out after they graduated at Moody. And there's a little asterisk next to some of the names. And those are all the people that used to be Moody students that went out and were missionaries and were martyred for their faith and their service to the kingdom. And I think about that and how terrifying that sounds. And I'm like, oh, the cave sounded real nice. And then I go out and I see these people's faces. I talk to people. I went to McDonald's and had lunch with a homeless man just randomly because he asked me if I had any extra food, and I happened to buy extra food that day for some reason. And it's just these little snippets of life that you see. And you're like, wow, this is why I need to leave the cave. This is what God has in store for me. And even though logic tells me I have food, I have water, I have friends, I have people who believe what I believe, and I could stay here and be very content. You'll never feel filled. And I went on a bit of a tangent.
That is the entire purpose of this podcast, so that's what I wanted to hear, and I appreciate that. Because I have not read. I intend to. Unstuck is on my in my room on my bookshelf in order to read.
It's so good. Mark Jobe does a fantastic job.
I just haven't read it yet, but that sounds awesome.
I was in a stage of my life that I very much needed that book, and I was trapped in a cave, and it just pulled me right out.
Yeah,
gave me a rope.
It's all pretty laid out, and it's just fun to read. I mean, I've read it a few times, and I'll probably read it a few times again today before I go to bed. It's just such a awesome little story, and it's, read the whole rest of Elijah's story too. I mean, he gets taken up in a chariot of fire later, and then Elisha puts a bunch of bears to a bunch of kids because they call him bald. Is Elijah
the one that outran the chariot at one point?
Oh,
I think it's him.
I think it is him.
I think Jezebel's chasing him, or he's trying to go see Jezebel, and he outruns the chariot. Bro's a flash. It's just casually.
But no, yeah, he doesn't even die. Chariot of fire takes him up, and then when Elisha gets anointed, basically to be his successor, he kind of comes out from being anointed, and a bunch of kids calling him bald head, and he's like, say it again, and then they call him again, and then he has a bunch of bears maul the kids.
Oh. That's
terrible. Womp womp.
Call me bald again, see what happens.
I mean, obviously it wasn't a malicious intent. Yeah. Those kids, the people calling that were bad. Like, it was not a good thing. It was justified. Sorry, just go read it. I can't do it justice.
It does sound kind of bad.
It does sound kind of bad, but that is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. Anyway, and the way that he calls Elisha is cool too. He's like, all right, drop what you're doing and follow me. Very much kind of like how Jesus calls his disciples, drop what you're doing and follow me. And he's like, okay, cool, I'll do it. Can I go say goodbye to my mom? And he's like, okay, I guess. I think, right? Doesn't he let him go say goodbye to who he needs to say goodbye to, or does he just drop it and go? Let me kiss my father and my mother, and I will follow you. And he said to him, go back again, for what have I done to you? And he returned from following him and took the yoke of the oxen and sacrificed them and boiled their flesh. He killed the oxen as like a parting gift. Boat snack. All right. I think that I have covered everything that I want to say.
I think that was my.
I love it. Go read it, guys. I feel like you could write a song about that passage. Oh, so, music. I have a song of the week. Segue.
Okay.
Big Iron by Marty Robinson.
Sorry, what was it again?
Big Iron.
Big Iron.
You have heard it before.
Have I?
Yes, on TikTok.
Oh.
It is a
bold of you to assume I'm on TikTok.
It's a great 60. Okay, so if you remember, I've been going through all these these genres and little things that I've listened to, but I haven't really fully explored.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done the whole thing with Ben Rector. And who else? Was there somebody else I did that with? What was our first one? Shane and Shane. Yes. I went through some of their older music, and it was awesome.
Sure.
Did the Ben Rector. Now I'm doing it with 60s country. I'm going to go through 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s country. And 60s country is awesome. Remember, I sent you that song, and you liked it.
Yep.
This is one of the songs. Big Iron by Marty Robbins he's a staple in country music. Marty Robbins is in the 60s. Oh, he's so cool. Let's see if I can find a little.
In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. Many men had tried to take him, and that many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though a youth of 24, and the notches on his pistol numbered 1 in 19 more. 1 in 19 more.
And then obviously the Big Iron on his hip is this bit here.
Big iron on his hip.
That's usually the refrain. Anyway, so it's a great song. My roommate and I learned to play it on the guitar the other night.
Your roommate.
And who do you think? Who plays guitar?
Yeah. Yep. I was gonna ask if it was this year's roommate or previous roommate, and then you specified before I could finish my question.
But we learned how to play it. It's a fun little song. And he's gonna do it for a recital.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I love that song. And then I have something else I'm gonna say after you say your song. That kind of is another song that leads us into the next thing.
Okay. My song for this week is called "I Don't Feel Like Dancing" by the Scissor Sisters.
When was the last time? When did you come up with that song?
When did I come up with that song? Like to say it on the podcast today?
Mm-hmm.
About 30 seconds ago.
Yep. I forgot to ask you if you had a song or not. Sorry.
I do.
Okay, cool.
It's this one.
Tell me about it.
Because your relational statement of the roommates and the friends.
Oh.
And it brought me to
this
song.
Wonderful.
I made a music video for this song when I was in high school. And with my sister and our friends and and it was really funny. And then I also made a my own movie. Go pick up the pea.
No,
Yep.
I didn't mean to. I'm
Nope.
sorry. I was trying to put it back.
Go pick them up. This is why we can't have nice things.
Gosh.
He's over here slamming the table, playing with peas while I'm talking. And yeah, that one. Yep. I forget the sound effects exist. Apologize.
I'm sorry.
Quiz, which one is that?
I don't know. Because we tried to look
Maybe
up
we
all the
shouldn't
letters.
have written it in Hebrew. He was insistent that we mark the P's for their names in the Hebrew alphabet, and now he doesn't remember which one is which.
Because you only did 2 of them and then left one of them blank because I couldn't find what the right letters were. Because the letters for...
Mishael is the unmarked one.
Okay. How do you know which one is which? Because this one is A. And okay, here's Mishael. PJ's got the other one.
Yeah.
Unless you want to keep him.
Azariah is the one that you were holding. Hananiah is the one you're currently grasping.
I'm ruining this. Okay. So, which one?
Azariah is on that side.
Okay.
Azariah is that one. Hananiah is that one. Mishael is the one sitting on.
Yes. Well, I just thought it was fun to have the original Hebrew names of these people,
Yeah.
and I thought it would be cool to have the.
Have
Whatever.
it written in Hebrew. I know, but we speak English, not Hebrew.
Go on with your song.
Anyway, my song, I Don't Feel Like Dancing, it became like my friend group from high school's little thing. That and another song, which I'll talk about at a later date. And it became our thing because it was on Just Dance 3, and we memorized it.
Dang.
And so me and my friend Luke can perform this dance to this day flawlessly, almost.
Really?
Without like the moves or anything on the Just Dance screen. And it's so much fun. I mean, we don't do it. I mean, he does it better than I do. He's just a better dancer than I am. But and we just had a ton of fun making the music video together, and it just has good memories with it. But it's also just a really fun song. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense in most aspects, but it's just fun. And my director in high school was like, "Oh, I haven't heard this song, and this is so fun." And there were only a few kids in my video class in high school, so, but yeah, and then I made a movie after that.
Did you talk about that last time?
I feel like maybe I did, where Jessica got fake hit by a car, and
Did we talk about that before?
I don't know.
started?
We might have talked about.
before.
We
I
had
know.
talked about it before we started, but I don't think I said it on air.
Okay. I don't
So
remember.
there was I had my sister fake get hit by a car, and we had to do that take so many times. It was crazy. It was just like reverse the car, forward, and it was so fun. We spent like 2 hours on her getting hit by a car.
What?
It was essential to the plot.
Clearly.
But it was a lot of fun. And we filmed it in the middle school parking lot. But I lost it because it was in my high school Google Drive,
and then
they
erase it. Yeah.
made it.
I thought I had it. I downloaded
nixed it,
everything
that's
off
the
of
word.
my drive too, and I can't access some things because they're files that my computer can't load.
Yeah.
And so I made a copy
So
of it and
sad.
sent it to myself on my other
I got an
drive, and
email.
I couldn't.
I got to email my teacher, or just text her, honestly. I have her phone number. She's a friend of mine. But I just got to be like, hey, do you have this video? Please tell me you have it. Because it was
That's why I haven't seen it.
put so much work into it. Every time I'm like, oh, I'll pull it up for you. And then I'm like, no, I won't.
The only video that I ever really made in high school was something that I'm proud of was my psychology video. The one where I get on my knees
Yeah.
in the baseball field and scream, and it's so perfectly cut because we were talking about stress in the video, and I kind of walk off screen looking stressed, and then because we learned about stress and then how to calm stress out in nature, and so we cut to a scene where they're like, wait, where did he go? And then Thomas turns the camera around, and I'm sitting in the baseball field miles away, not literally, but it looks so far away, and I get on my knees and scream in agony, and I cut it right there. And it was just I was very proud of that video. I made a lot of Wii videos in high school.
Oh, there was, at the end of the movie that I made, there's a shot of Jessica going, no! And the camera slowly, like, pans from her face, like, up into the air. And it cuts off after that, and then roll credits. But it's so funny. And it was just so much fun to make, honestly. Like, all the video projects I made for that class were just so much fun. I just loved it. And I'm so excited. Our intro to comms class, we're starting to actually talk about our final project for the class.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I think either right before or right after spring break, we're going to decide on projects. But I have this awesome idea that I'm so excited about that I really hope that I get to do. And
well, as long as you present the idea and
I
you got another person behind you, you can do whatever you want.
I know. I'm hoping Yesin will do it with me. So we'll see. But I'm sure somebody will hop on the bandwagon. It's just cool. And I don't know.
Heck yeah. It
Anyway.
is really cool to see something like that come to fruition.
I just love making videos and doing the editing process. It's just fun to me. I don't know.
Well,
Anyway.
it is fun, just flat out.
Mm-hmm.
And fun rhymes with music. So I was listening. So we're going to go to.
No, it
We're
doesn't.
going to go to the symphony on Saturday and see Beethoven's Seventh Symphony. Tomorrow. Yes. And see another piece as well, but Beethoven's Seventh will be in there. And that's kind of like my other piece for today's
Other peas.
side note. My other piece. Well, that's just a different thing.
Okay.
It's this,
Yep, sorry.
not
Continue.
music. So
Sorry.
Beethoven's Seventh Symphony. So go listen to that because it's an awesome piece, and I'll tell you why. We at the Moody Bible Institute have in the library we have a whole section dedicated to music, and these music sections have rows and sets of scores from Bach and Beethoven and Mendelssohn and Haydn and like all these amazing composers. We have books and books of the scores of these pieces, and it's amazing because I know nobody goes in there because I picked one of the Bach books up and opened it and the spine cracked like it had never been opened before. And it's just, it's so cool. And so to kind of like prepare to go to the symphony, sometimes I like to listen to the music that we're listening to. I went to I went to the Beethoven section. I pulled out one of the books on his symphonies. I opened to the Seventh Symphony, and I spent, I don't know how long. It had to be, I started at about 11:30, ended about 12:10. It was about 40 minutes of music. I just sat, and I listened to this piece of music and read through it as I played it. And it was so cool. And it really made me feel so much more immersed in the music, and I'm definitely going to have to take advantage of that more often. Because it is a really cool experience to like see the music and hear it at the same time.
Should do a score study sometime.
I've never
That's a
done a
lot of
score
fun.
study, and I would love to do that. In fact, there are books down there that are score study books.
Mm.
So it's almost like a commentary on
Yeah.
the music.
I had to do score study in high school on my marching band stuff.
That's pretty cool.
More on marching band in a moment.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
I was going to say one more thing, otherwise that would be a perfect transition. They used to make pocket scores for these pieces because people would take these pocket scores to the symphony and they would read through it as the music played. It was just like a cool thing to do to kind of interact with what's going on. And we have those, but they are reference material.
You can't take them out of the
you
library.
cannot check out reference material. I only have to read them in
It's
the library.
such a bummer.
It is such
It
a
would
bummer.
be so cool
It'd be
to like go to the
so cool to
symphony
have
and
that.
whip it out and be like,
Now, I have to look at
like a little
because
old person.
I talked to some librarians, and they told me that there are some of the music that's down there that is check-outable. It's not reference music. In fact, she showed me one that was back behind the counter that I could have checked out. So I have to go back down there and really look at it again and see if there is some pocket scores, and then maybe even go looking for those pieces that will be played. Anyway, so definitely recommend if you ever have the chance to, if you're on campus or something, go down there and do that. Check out those scores, read through them. Even if you don't understand music all that well, as long as you can count in time, it is kind of hard to do it when you're not super accustomed to music. I conducted half the piece, like one of the movements. I just went through it. It was really fun because then I could cue things in when I knew they were coming, seeing them in the thing. It was just really cool. So now this number 7 symphony is super cool, and I love it. And I'm going to go back through and listen to all Beethoven symphonies because I've never done that. And I listen to a lot of Dvorak on my computer, and I'm going to go see if we have any of those scores downstairs and listen to some of my favorite Dvorak pieces with the scores in front of me. So, marching band.
Yeah. In high school, I was in marching band for all 4 years. Actually, 5 years, technically. In 8th grade, I was selected to be part of the pit orchestra part of the band, which... What
is a pit orchestra?
I'm about to explain it to you.
Go on.
The pit orchestra part of the marching band is your front ensemble, which is also your xylophones, vibraphones, marimbas, basic percussion stuff that can't be marched all over a field. So anything but a drum, basically. is in the pit orchestra or the front ensemble, however you may say that. So I had just picked up xylophone at the time and decided to be a percussionist for half a second there. And my teacher was like, "Hey, we need another pit player, and would you want to come and be in the high school marching band?" And I was like, yeah, that's so cool. And a friend of mine was a flautist, and she also got bumped up, and another friend of mine who was also a percussionist was also bumped up with me. So, and then I auditioned. I got first xylophone. It was really cool. They couldn't give me first marimba because that's like the section leader, and I was in 8th grade. So
Seniority.
yeah, but also David, who was the first marimba, was extremely talented and a senior. So I took piano with him. He's super cool. He went to Hope. He's a cool guy. But there was that, and that's like a whole first section is like when you're in the pit, you have from time to start, you have so much time to get on the field, set up, and ready. And if you don't meet those time requirements of getting on and ready, you get a penalty. And if you are before that, you're all in the clear. So, and then there's all these moving pieces that you can get penalized for. So it's like if your people aren't on the field in their formation and set, you get a penalty. If your drum major doesn't salute the right way, you get a penalty. If like
Why do drum majors salute?
Okay. These are all things that I'm getting to later. You're jumping the gun.
I need
right
to
now,
understand
I'm
where
in
you're
the front
going right
ensemble. We're grazing the surface.
now. Okay. Okay.
And then my next years, I was a clarinetist. Obviously, I play clarinet currently, and it was so much fun. And you get for marching, the portion of marching, you get a drill card. And if you're a section leader or a drill instructor, as I was, you get a drill chart.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to see all the formations, but specifically where each person is supposed to stand. And your drill card is about this big, and it's not much bigger than your cell phone. And
Depends on what phone you
for each piece that you play and usually there's 3 or 4 pieces in a full show, you get a different drill card. So we would color code ours and laminate them and whatever. So, but it'll tell you left or right, and then it'll tell you a number. And so if it says left 16, front 4, you'll go to the front hash marker of the football field, and you'll go forward 4, and then to the left side of the field, which is actually your right.
Oh, that's
16
like
steps.
stage left, stage right kind of stuff.
Yes, it's opposite.
That's tough.
So you would go forward 4, so it would be front 4. You go 4 steps forward, which the actual step length that you're supposed to take is 22.5 inches precisely. So
No way.
yeah,
How do you be that precise?
you practice.
Whoa.
Every 5 yards, you're supposed to take 8 steps. So, and you have all these different kinds of steps. So there's 8 to 16, 16 to 16, 4 to 16, 2 to 16. 2 to 16 is like not possible. Don't do that. But not 16. 5. Oh my gosh, what am I saying?
5 to 16 or 2
No,
to 5?
16 to 5.
Whoa.
8 to
16
5.
to 5.
5 yards, 16 steps. 16 to 5. 5 yards, 8 steps. 8 to 5.
Okay. I thought the first one was the steps and the second one was yards.
Yeah.
That is how it
8
is.
to 5.
So,
4 to 5. 2 to 5, etc.
okay.
So it's different step lengths. And then for warm-ups, we would do drills of like you go 1 yard line where you're doing 5 steps, and then you go the next yard line where you're doing 8, and then the next yard line you're doing
They
16.
change?
Yeah. And it's interchangeable, and sometimes it's in between the normal step sizes that you're used to. So then you have to change it to adapt to get to your spot at the right time on the right dot is what they're called. And
The dots are not there during performances, though, correct?
no, the dots aren't there in real life.
Oh.
They're called your dot, but you have to mark it off every time from the hash marks in the football outfield lines. But the lines are very clearly dictated out on our practice field. But when you get to an actual field, you have like the 50-yard line, the vertical lines.
Every 10 yards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Holy smokes.
So it's really difficult to figure out how far forward you're supposed to be, how far back you're supposed to be. And it's really challenging. And then you also have the task of memorizing 3 extremely difficult pieces of music. And then matching up each measure of music with each piece of the drill that you just learned.
That's what makes Ohio State's marching band so impressive.
No. I mean, yes, but no. I mean,
No, I just mean like the best of the best. Whoever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Having to do all that at the same time
mean,
with the music.
Ohio State's just a college marching band. There's like actual like DCI is Drum Corps International, and it's like competitive, like the big dogs. Like if I could be in DCI, oh my gosh! But it's brass only.
See now,
brass and drums only. And I don't play brass, and I'm not that great of a drummer. So
I put marching band as a functional thing during a football game that's used to entertain people.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with cheerleading. And so when you get to competitive cheer and you get to competitive marching band, I start to be like, well, what is, like, is it the same thing with rodeos where the things that you do in a rodeo are functional for the cowboy to get the calves and such during the ranch, and so rodeos are just a show of that expertise that you do on everyday things. Is that how it is for marching band, that these competitions are just showing that in the real life situations of a football game or where you're performing that, you're just really good at it?
I think even the opposite. I think the football games are just like, I mean, it felt so dumb to us to go to a football game and perform.
But isn't that the express purpose of a marching band?
I don't think so.
I thought that was where
I mean, I think, you do your parades and whatever, this, that, little novelty events.
Yeah, but when you get to these, like, you're making shapes and you're marching all around and doing things to the beat, and it's just like it becomes a whole sport almost, a whole thing, category on its own.
A lot of schools, if you do 4 years of marching band, they'll cover your gym credit because it's,
exercise,
we would run every morning for band camp. We would go and run. And then we do our drills for an hour. And usually when I was drum major, you run the drills. So, but that also brings this effect of your band is like, well, they can't march as good as I can. And so I made a point to get out on the field early, to be practicing extra, to make sure that if I was blindfolded and somebody said, give me an 8 to 5, I could do it. And I would know exactly.
That's so crazy.
On the spot. And my first year as drum major, not only was I conducting up front, but I was also part-time marching for clarinet. And so I learned my dots and my drill for that. And then I learned my music for clarinet. I did a whole score study, and I learned the conducting patterns and all my other rules and stuff that I needed to know for being a drum major. And so it was like all this stuff was so overwhelming. It was so difficult. I mean, the times that I had to march, it just wasn't my best work because I had been learning so many different things. But then you add in another working piece. So you have your drill and you have your music, and then you add in visuals. That's when you see where, like, you stop and you'll do like outstretched to the side kind of a thing, or kneeling forward.
Flourishes?
Yeah, little fun things. And sometimes you do an entire dance. And it gets a little difficult to remember, like, okay, I'm getting over here, and then I have to do this really weird squat lunge move thing, but I also have to be like 20 yards to my left and to my back in the next 4 counts. And I got to book it back there while I'm lunging, while I'm playing. And it gets so complicated.
Good heavens.
And it's awesome. Because you look at these bands, and even if they only do a mediocre job, I mean, wow. They put some work into that. And the bands that do an exceptional job, I mean, I love watching it. there's state competitions every year in Michigan at Ford Field for the high school MCBA, Michigan Competitive Band Association. And those are like the heavyweights. And then you have your scholastic competitions, which is like the middleweights. You know, they're not as like challenged as the people that in the MCBA. And they get to do more like fun show music, like Pirates of the Caribbean has done a lot and stuff like that. And then you have your MSBOA, Michigan State Band and Orchestra Association. That's like they do one marching performance, but they're basically there for football games, and you get ranked like you're at a festival, where it's like a 1 or a 2 or a 3, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at a scholastic competition or MCBA competition, you're ranked based on, you have all these judges. You have judges walking on the field, you have judges up in the booth, and you have judges in the crowd. And they are looking at visuals and your color guard, which is your flag corps. They're being looked at for, are they in sync? Are they in step? Did they throw the flag the right way? Like, all this stuff. And they are looking at, are you leaning too far back on your steps? Are you leaning too far forward on your steps? Was that a successful yo-yo, which is a forward back step?
A toy that you bring down and up.
You step forward and then immediately you have to step back. Like a yo-yo. I have fallen many times.
I believe I remember this because it was wet.
Yeah, it was wet, and
I slipped, and then you rolled and got back up somehow, and awesome. Your teacher was like, oh, I don't know.
No, my section leader was
that
was
like,
sick.
I don't know.
And he never
what
says
that
anything.
Was.
I mean, he was a silent man, but he was like, that was sick. And anyway, but you also have to deal with the judges being on the field. And if they get in your way, you're not supposed to go around them. You're supposed to hit them. And
will you get marked down if you go around them?
Yeah. If you go around them and change your path and do not hit them or tell them to get out of your way, you get marked.
So you're telling me they intentionally go out and try to get in your way?
No.
Oh.
They don't try to get in your way. It just happens sometimes. Where you're like doing a move where you're booking it backwards and they're there, you know? And they're like, oh, there's a line of people. Oh, wow, okay. And they try and fit in between you, but sometimes they're really unsuccessful. And sometimes they just are a little oblivious. And
how do they know what's going to happen? They're just standing there trying to dodge and weave and judge at the same time?
Yeah. And they have these little microphones that they walk around with where they're talking. They're like, hello, Moody Bible Institute Marching Band. It's good to see you today. My name is so-and-so. This is my accreditation. And I'm here to judge you today on your audio, on your sound. And I just wanted to tell you, oh, that was a lovely trumpet solo to start out with. And they're walking around the field as this is happening. And it's like, oh, that was a little out of tune in your clarinet section. Maybe try and fix that next time. Or you're...
Yeah, so how much does the music really matter? Because it sounds like the whole thing is so marched focused, and then you've got to do your music.
The music is worth half your score.
So how do you have rehearsals or practices or things? Like how much does the music play in your preparation?
So for band camp, a typical day of band camp,
marching band camp or band camp?
Marching band camp, which we call band camp because you don't have band camp for other things, I don't think. I don't know, my school never did. Anyway, marching band camp, you would go out and you'd start your day, few laps around running, and then you would do drills and march, and then you'd go inside and you'd play. And you would play until from 9 to noon, let's say. And then you would spend noon to 1 was like lunch, and then like 1 to 3 was sectionals. So you'd split off. You'd have sectionals. You'd work the parts that you need to work. And then the rest of the day, you were out on the field running drill with no music. So, and then eventually to the end of the week, you start putting together the drill and the music. But you're not even grazing the surface of what you're actually going to get to in the whole season during camp. You learn maybe like 20 sets, which is like the whole show is like hundreds of sets. And it is kind of wild. But, and if you're a drum major, you spend the front half of your day, you're instructing for drill sets. In the morning, you're conducting during the time that your band is playing. During sectionals, you are in a office with your band director doing score study and how do I conduct this? Should I make this 5/4 measure? Should I conduct it in 5/4? Should I conduct it in a 2 and then 3? Like, how should I break this up? Should I just do one big, like, 2/4? Like, how do I break that up? How do I make this look like a smooth thing? And then you're also working on your cues, and okay, I want you to be louder here. I'm going to raise this hand up for this entire measure, and then we're going to go down, and then we're going to go up,
we're going to go down. Now, in orchestra, the conductor wants to control the flow of the music a little bit so that we're not just playing the notes. You know, he wants more expressive so the hands are smoother or, you know, more rigid or with volume stuff. That applies to the marching band as well, correct? So if you're trying to get them to be louder, then they're supposed to be watching you at the same time.
Well, and I use like my entire body because my co-drum major, because I'm getting there. My co-drum major was like 6'6" and a beanstalk. I mean, he was just a tall guy, and they would be like, "Oh, where's Noah today?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, you got me. He's at a tennis tournament." Because that was like the reason that we were co-drum majors my junior year, was because he had tennis and they needed somebody to fill in when he wasn't there because he was state champion that year. So he was gone a lot, more than we expected. So, and they'd be like, "We can't see you." So I'd have to do the most that I could to like be straight up on my tiptoes, like really giving it my all, big motions, like my arms all the way out. And there was one competition where we received best drum major.
And that was you.
And it was me. And it was awesome. And I was listening back to the recordings of the judges' comments, and he was like, "You guys really need to work on watching your drum major. She is doing a fantastic job. I've been watching her, and it's very good. She's
That's gotta be."
And I was like, yeah, I'm the best. And
humble too.
No, but most of the time I was not confident in anything that I did, so I was not prideful about that in any way, shape, or form in that moment. And I was like, I had been told by everybody that I was a horrible drum major, a horrible conductor, I couldn't keep time, but I also was supposed to be memorizing tempos and, different conducting styles. And it all seems really easy until you're doing it and you realize, oh, I have to have my hands a certain way or else I get a penalty. I have to, like, all this stuff. Little logistical things. If I didn't take we call it a shako. It's your hat. If you don't take it off, turn it and set it down the right way, penalty. If you don't turn and salute at the right time, penalty. If you take too long saluting, penalty.
I just don't understand what the purpose of the penalties are.
You just gotta...
you gotta be perfect, but, like, I don't know. This is not me, like, dissing the marching band or anything. I'm just, like, a lot of things are pretty functional in other sports, I would think. Like, when you're in football practice, you get, you get penalties, sort of, for certain things. Obviously, this is a competition. It's a little different. You're not being scored in football on how well you perform. It's just whether or not you have more points. But, like, I just keep comparing it to, like, the rodeo. I don't know why, because the rodeo is a representation of something that happens somewhere else, and that's how I picture this marching band. And in a rodeo, you do get points taken on or off based on your ability to complete a task rather than not the task being completed. Like, not quite nearly as rigorous as that, but I just, like, or I think of, like, boot camp. Like, if you don't have things ready a certain way, then when you're in the Army, you're going to be up creek without a paddle. And so I just...
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It's mind-boggling to me that it's so strict when there's no real, like, I don't want to say purpose, but I don't know. I hope that's not like a weird way to say it. I'm just trying to say it's just very interesting how.
And then you have props.
Props?
Yeah. Giant props that you put on the field for your show because it's a theme show. So my junior year, we did Alcatraz. And so instead of wearing our typical uniforms, we wore Alcatraz prison wear, which was jeans. You would wear jeans and a jean denim jacket with Alcatraz spray paint kind of printed on the back. And it was accurate to what they wore. And then we had these giant prison bars that there was 3 of them.
What are they made of?
PVC and wood.
Oh.
But they were spray painted and done up.
Yeah.
And so you could hang off them and you would use them as a visual, like you'd be like our trumpet player was like through the bars doing we had 3 trumpet soloists and so they were 1 mellophone, which is a baritone but for marching, and 2 trumpet soloists, and they would hang themselves through the bars with their instrument. And it was so cool. I mean, it was, and the props really make the show. I mean, my sophomore year, we did a show called The Maze, and we literally had these tarps that you would lay out all over the field, and it would make a maze, and the maze would move. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
The year before that, we did a show. I get it.
At least it's supposed to hit the rim shot right there.
Maze.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Perfect. But we would do, the year before that we did this show called Impressions of Light. And it was very much like good versus evil. And it was so funny because our flute soloists and our color guard feature, they were brother and sister. Oh.
No.
What?
Okay,
That was like the...
yeah, I know.
She's got headphones on, remember?
Oh, yeah.
She can hear you.
Oh, I'm so silly for that. Oh, that's, yeah. They were brother, sister. And, and so he would be all dressed in black and like he had this cool face makeup and stuff. And then she was all dressed in white. And then it was like the battle happening. And it was so cool. And we had like this giant like gold center stage piece that had like a gold path in the middle and then like white and black on either sides, and we had some other stuff with it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. And then year before that it was A Note About Witches, and we did some more well-known, I mean, it's not like show music necessarily, but it was a lot of fun to play on xylophone. That was the year I did xylophone. And we had this giant cauldron, and then we had this giant like mesh sheet that would come out of it, and the color guard like enveloped the entire band in it. And
that's pretty cool.
It was like smoke coming out of it. And
wow.
They were like crawling, trying to get out, and
Good
you would
heavens.
get dragged back in. It was so cool. I'll have to show you the video. But there's just so many things. And then the drums, our drum line couldn't be in the tarp with them. So they would take their drumsticks and do like a cross and be like, stay back. It was really funny. And the whole color guard was witches. I mean, that was their whole thing. And we had these trees that were like frosted trees and stuff like that. And they were really cool. So anyway, it's just so much fun. I mean, you get to put the time into the props, put the time into the music, put time into the drill, and like really, I mean, you're bonded with those people after that. You put so much time together. I mean, rehearsals are long, and it was like every day after school, and you're there on the weekends from 9 to 5. Like,
I can't even think of anything that would come close to that kind of commitment. I mean, I I think a little bit of what I was going to ask earlier is if you were to be thrown into this right now, like how much would come back to you? Because I think about I did diving for a long time, and how much would come back to me like that. Yeah, I can talk about it later, but I can't think of any sort of production that was like Candlelight Carols might be the biggest production in terms of things like that I've really ever been a part of, in terms of like time and effort by everybody. I just can't think of anything that I've ever had that much stuff to it. So that's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you.
And then every year we would go to Ford Field, which is where the Detroit Lions play for state finals on November 4th every year. And it was just, I mean, you get to walk down the tunnel that all these famous people walk down and like be on the field that they were out on, and it's so cool. And you get to take your picture in the stands and do all this stuff, and it's just a lot of fun and good memories. I got a beanie and a long sleeve shirt every year so that I could have 5 of them and wear them for an entire week of school by the time I was graduating. And
that's wild.
That was extra, but it was so much fun. And I wish Moody had a marching band. I mean, wow, would I love that. We don't have a field, so that's to start.
Nearly enough people who are interested in that.
And we don't have enough people, but I do miss it a lot. And if I was a good enough conductor, I might try and go for DCI or something crazy. I mean, you have like the Blue Devils and stuff like that are just crazy, insane, talented. And I watch those videos all the time of their shows, and it's like you in NASCAR. I track marching band like that. It's like, oh, this is the beginning of GCI season. Oh, this is the beginning of high school season. Oh, this is the beginning. And I pay attention to those things, and I track along with it, and I think it's fun. And, yeah. Anyway, I'll have to show you some of these really cool, like, elaborate shows. And the DCI finalists there's a whole competition that's like hours long. And that's the other thing is competitions are so much fun. You get to interact with all these other bands. I got to make friends with all the other drum majors, which was so much fun. And it really is like a way to interconnect schools. And that was really cool for me. And sometimes it'd be snowing outside and we'd be marching. Sometimes it'd be raining. Sometimes it'd be sunny. And you would never know. And most times it was freezing. So
wow.
But it was so fun. And I would do it again a million times over. Anyway, that was my talk on marching band. If you have more questions, come find me. But I won't talk your ear off anymore. But if you are in high school and have the opportunity, do it. It's so much fun. And it sounds like a lot of work and a lot of technical pieces and like you're going to fail, but you're not. And it's so fun. My band was in the MCBA, the Big Dogs, and we were tough competitors. And, last thing. We got, on my very last competition, we got hit with a standstill. Basically what that means is it was thundering outside, and we weren't allowed to march. So all of our visual points.
Right,
gone.
so it's not a pause. It's not a rain check. It's you, because of the weather, you're not allowed to move, and so therefore we're not going to give you any points.
Correct.
Which is the definition of unfair, in my opinion.
So there was east side of the state and west side of the state competitions. And on the west side, our final competition, we had a standstill, and that score was essential to whether or not we were going to state. And so we could only score up to 50 points out of 100 because it was purely based on music. And they also said my name wrong. They said drum major Jordan Little. I said, I don't know who Jordan Little is, but it's not me. And it was just so devastating. And we were all sitting on the bus waiting to head back. And we were watching the scores from the east side roll in. And, I mean, this band in Clio, they had scores in the 60s all season. And they scored like a 98. Just out of nowhere. And you take your two best scores and put it in. And they had I think it was tenths of a point above us. And we didn't get to go to state that year. And it was so devastating to us. I mean, it was like the seniors were crushed, the juniors were crushed, and then the year after that was COVID.
Yikes.
So that was my last competition. And it was so tough.
That's awesome. All right, well, on the Mac sound. Now you know everything, literally everything there is to know about Mochi Man.
There's a lot more.
I know.
But
Enough to watch it and understand it.
it's really fun to watch. Go watch some. I mean, pay attention at your high school football game halftime and be like, wow, these kids put in a lot of work, because they do. And they sound good and they look cool. They don't look like nerds. They look cool. Okay?
Okay. I will do that. Do you want to do your little outro thing? Well, thank you guys for joining us.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're at
Oh, sorry.
hour 10 at this point.
I talked a little long.
I don't know. I will do NASCAR next week.
All right. NASCAR next week. Come back ready for a full, heaping, healthy ladle of peas. We'll see you guys next time.